The Sri Lankan military says these are the last civilians to flee the battle zone. There are thousands of them, many of them looking utterly wretched. The army says they were held as human shields, kept against their will by the rebels. Some bore the physical scars of the fighting, and many were obviously traumatized.
So I hope that sanity will prevail and that the world will recognize what Sri Lanka has achieved entirely, almost entirely on its own. The much predicted, in fact, let me say, much anticipated bloodbath never occurred.
But these pictures, broadcast on state television, show fighting still very much going on, and shattered civilians, some holding up white pieces of cloth, being shepherded out by equally exhausted-looking troops. The Tiger rebels are now surrounded on a strip of land no bigger than half a square mile. And the troops are now going all out to finish them off. The President may have declared the Tigers, or LTTE, are spent as a military force, but they're still giving them trouble. Cornered and with no way out, the rebels appear to be holding back the government troops by blowing up their own ammunition. And left behind in their retreat, packs of suicide vests. Independent observers are barred from the conflict zone, so all these claims cannot be verified. But the soldiers are pressing ahead despite an announcement posted on the pro-Tamil website declaring they are silencing their guns. The President's declaration that the Tigers have been defeated prompted celebrations in the Sri Lankan capital. They've waited nearly 3 decades for this. It's led to an outpouring of patriotic fervour, and that's been coupled with concern that this could provoke revenge attacks on the Tamil community.
But the government's anxious to avoid being seen as too triumphalist, especially with the continuing alarm amongst the international community over the plight of tens of thousands of civilians.
More than 200,000 civilians are being held in camps and being processed, as the government describes it. They can't leave, and they've nowhere to go now anyway. The United Nations is still very worried about their treatment, and a special UN envoy is in the country to try to find out just what the government's planning for these homeless people who've been through so much already.